Good morning, everyone. This is Dawn with Classy Designs by Dawn. And today we are going to be sewing up my Calypso Evening bag pattern. This is a simple lines purse. Limited in top stitching. Not a lot of top stitching, so if that's something you have a hang up with, it's great for that. Hidden back zipper pocket. I like the double zip top zipper. You could actually do it single, but I do like the double. There is a zipper pocket inside and a slip pocket inside. And the installation for the sides and the rivets, a little unique. So let's get sewing. I have prepped all my exterior fabrics. You will need a forceps tool. This is an actual forceps. If you do any freestanding lace, machine embroidery, you'll probably have one of these gator clasps for pulling your eyelets. I also used that, but the forceps is important. You cannot really do without. They're pretty cheap on Amazon, so no big investment there. Your D-rings, the pattern calls for chain style shoulder strap, but again, totally preference. It gives it a little more evening look. You certainly can do a vinyl strap if that's what you wish, or even a webbing. I have prepared all of my pieces. I've applied EB Fuse. Because of the construction method used for this pattern, I didn't use a lot of Decoville Light, although Decoville Light for both the bottom and the side gussets. Highly recommended, but I am using a vinyl. This is a denim look vinyl. So it's a little bit heavier. And you will notice when you read the pattern that there's actually specific pattern pieces. Because there's a limited amount of top stitching to get the shape in certain areas, I used a layering of stabilizers and interfacing to get what I was after. So there is a layer of EB Fuse down first. Outside, I don't know if you can see it because it's white on white on white, but it's using the pattern piece. And then I have applied a full piece of SF101 over everything, right to the edges. As you can see, I haven't even trimmed my little corners here. You can really see that on the rounded top edges. Okay, so just apply according to your instructions. Prepare, sort out your exterior from your interior. We are actually going to start on the interior today. Normally I start on an exterior. But today we're starting on the interior. And we are ready to get started. This is going to be the interior slip pocket. I am using a lightweight vinyl and a mid-weight cotton woven canvas. So my pocket linings on my for the lining pockets are not interfaced. Just because I have a lot of interfacing everywhere else, they didn't need it for the lining pocket linings. So we're going to get started. I have a couple of bobbins filled, and we are going to do the slip pocket, right sides together, just like that. 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides. Want the sewn? Let's clip our corners, bottom corners of the fold. And now I'm going to go to the ironing board, turn this right side out, and push out my corners well, and give it a really, really good press, and I will be right back. Here we are, nicely pressed. We're going to stitch 1/4 inch across the top open edge just to hold it shut. 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's going to be a little hard to see the stitch line, but it's there. I'm going to go trim this top edge so it's nice and straight to prepare to put the top accent piece on. Okay, all nice and trimmed. I have prepared my accent, slip pocket accent, by drawing a line down the center and 2 pieces of DST to either side of that line. And I'm going to place my stitched up packet right next to that line. And then I am going to fold this over that edge. And then I'm going to have the DST stick like I'd book it to. So let's add some clips. All right, now we're going to top stitch along the edge. I don't usually recommend an actual top stitch setting just because everyone's machine is slightly different. Find one that your machine does very nicely and go with it. There's no right or wrong. Okay, top stitched. You can see we cut both sides. Almost think the back side is straighter than the front side. Okay, so trim off your ends. Flush with the sides. Don't trim away this pocket material, causing it to fray. And we will need one of our main linings PCs. Trim off my corners. We are going to center our pocket 2.5 inches down. Just like that. We're going to stitch side, bottom, side, and we're also going to put a line down the center. I like my pockets divided so that my pins don't flip and fall around and I lose them. So right along the edge. I don't even usually mark where I'm going to stitch the additional line in my pocket. I just eyeball it. You can hold your fabric straight enough so that it stitches a straight line down your pocket. You're not going that far. Okay, you can see from the back, I've got the 3 lines going up and down at the bottom, just like that. Now you can put rivets at the top of your thread lines if you desire. I'm not decided if I'm going to do that yet, so I'm just going to get started on the next step, which is the zipper pocket. So we will need the zipper pocket lining, zipper overlay, piece of main lining. Again, trim off my before I start stitching my lining to my exterior, I will actually go back in and verify that my SF 101 is adhered well. Alright, I wanted to show you this as you know, a lot of you question how to do a zipper overlay. This is a raw cut. Basically, it's the typically 2 inches by whatever you're looking for. This is just a curved pocket guide that I found, this works pretty good for this. So I draw my corners just like that. Remembering to use the same one on all four corners. I do provide the SVG file to cut these on a cutting machine, Cricut, Cameo, or Scan and Cut. So you can do it that way if you wish. Most of the time I'm cutting so many of these that it's almost for me to just do these by hand. Hint, don't move your scissors, move your fabric. It sounds kind of odd, but if you move your fabric kind of around and your scissors stationary, you'll get a much cleaner, smoother, rounder cut. Now for the centerpieces, I like to do a 1/2 inch opening. Oh, yes, my cats are full of it today. We have had some thunderstorms, and so they are just being stinkers. Knocking everything on the floor. So that's what the crashing noise is. Okay, so 2 inches, little math lesson here. 2 inches full width. I want a 1/2 inch zipper opening. So that leaves me 3/4 and 3/4 on both sides. And then it's actually 1 inch in from both ends. Okay, so that's how I do that. And then what I'll actually do is I will use the rotary cutter and not quite cut all the way to the mark, but enough that it's just a tiny snip to the end. So I'm going to cut that with the rotary cutter and I will be right back. Okay, I have started the cuts. So here's what I've got. Now I just take a really nice sharp scissors and I finish the snip to that side line. The sharp scissors is probably the biggest hint I can give you. Make sure your scissors is nice and sharp and you will get a precise cut. So just like that, we have our overlay cut by hand. And now I'm going to put some DST on. All right, just like that. Bring back our second piece of the lining. And again, we are 2.5 inches down. I like to take just one piece of the DST off to start with. Make sure it is nice and up next to the edge of your straight edge measuring tool. And remove the second piece. And make sure that we haven't distorted our rectangular opening. And now we top stitch around the outer edge. So around just the outer edge. Now, so we don't see the thread ends from the front, I'm going to pull these to the back. Okay, top stitched around the outer edge, as you could see from the back. Now I'm going to cut away just the lining. If you've watched any of my other videos, you will know that I always stress, hold on to your overlay underneath so that you know you are not cutting, damaging in any way that overlay. This will all be on the inside, so being super straight and precise in your cutting isn't necessary. There's our opening. And now I applied 2 more rows of DST right along the opening edges to that center rectangle. DST kind of serves 2 purposes. Not only is it an adhesive for its second pair of hands, but it also helps your fabric from stretching. This is Weft and Warp's Buddha vinyl. If you've ever used it, it does have a stretch. So the DST around the zipper opening helps keep that rectangle from getting distorted. Now we're going to put our zipper pull on. And stitch it to our half lining. Little hint, somebody else posted it in one of the groups. These Blu-ray holders are great for holding your bulk zipper tape. Coil it in there. And it's clean. You have pets like I do. They can't get into it. And pretty convenient. They stack the clear. You can see what you've got. Kind of a cute little setup. And just like that, we have our zipper on. So I'm going to cross the narrower end. I'm going to stitch my zipper tape on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance along this top edge. Just like that. And now we're going to pull it up and stitch the opposite side of the zipper. Okay, we have created a tube for our zipper lining. Now it's time to center our zipper and pocket lining into our overlay opening. So I go ahead and remove both backs to the DST. And then I'm just going to kind of fiddle with it for a bit until I am happy with where I like it. A lot of times what I do is I actually find a grain line on the zipper tape and I follow that to get my zipper tape placed nicely. Just like that, quick and easy. Now, with our pocket lining pulled to the top, I'm going to stitch across just this bottom edge, starting and stopping 1/8 inch past the corner at the opening. Okay. Basically, it's top stitching and securing the zipper to the overlay. Okay, easy peasy, just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull my zipper tails to the back and tie them off to hide those thread tails from the back so you don't see them on the front. All right, there we have it. Top stitched, threads pulled to the back. I am going to go to the ironing board. Since y'all know by now, I like a good crisp press. And press this so my lining goes down. I will be right back. Nice and pressed. Now I am going to stitch the other remaining sides with the pocket lining down. So we're going to stitch down, across, and then back. And we're going to be stopping and starting at that end points of our previous top stitching. And then we'll be able to pull our thread ends through, and you'll never know you stopped and started unless you looked at the lining. Okay, you can see better from the back here. We've stitched around. Now pull your tail ends to the back. All right, now we're going to be boxing our bottom corners and closing up our lining by pulling it up through our pocket. So I'm just cutting it open. And now I'm going to sew 1/2 inch from each side, just to close up the sides. There we have our zipper pocket. Open on the bottom, stitched on the sides, and from the front. And we are going to, I'm going to go apply a personalized name tag and rivets to my slip pocket top, and I will be right back and we will get started on the exterior. Here we have our completed linings, rivets at the top of my stitch lines, extra stabilization, and we are going to set these to the side and start working on the exterior now. All right, these two pieces are E. The back top is C. And the back piece of lining is H. And we need 10 inches of zipper. Marking the center on your pieces is very helpful. All right, this next step is going to take 10 inches of zipper tape, and I have marked the center, and this is your exterior E and your lining E. I am going to use some DST along this top edge of E. Okay. we are wanting our zipper to pull close to the left. So I have a center mark and a center mark. Okay, the zipper in place, and our lining is going to go right side to right side with the front exterior so that the zipper is sandwiched in between. We're going to sew from end to end, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I am going to go to the ironing board, and I am going to iron this really well, pulling that zipper straight up, just like that. Because what we're going to want to do for the next sewing step is top stitch across this edge next to the zipper through all layers from end to end. Okay, so I'm going to run to the ironing board and I will be right back. Here we are all pressed. I'm going to top stitch end to end of my folded top edge, making sure that I pull my lining down nice and firmly. There's that top stitched edge. You'll see me look like I'm sewing right between my fingers, because what I'm doing is I'm using my pointer finger to push and pull the zipper or this side to that side, and my other fingers are pushing the exterior fabric the other way. So it's just my way of literally dictating how I'm pulling the fabric. You will also notice, because I actually did not want any more layers on this point, I did not interface my pocket lining. And as you can see, it actually warped and shaped. So I will just trim that down. But that is one reason why interfacing is important. The SF 101 would have prevented that, but I didn't want the bulk in these corner points when I start pulling everything together, and you'll kind of understand that once you see how it does come together. Okay, this is the back pocket lining. And we're going to center our zipper on it, just like that. I put some DST across that bottom edge, and I have the zipper over that. And now with bright sides together, exterior to exterior, it's super important to make sure that your exterior piece sides, these sides, are lining up. Super duper important. Just like that. Let's move the zipper pull a little bit. Okay, as you can see, we're going to have the lining H is behind the zipper. And now we're going to sew across here through all 3 layers, the exterior lining and the zipper, at 1/4 inch to create the top of our zipper. Here is our lining pocket and back top all stitched. And make sure your zipper pull is kind of in the middle of your pocket. And you're going to need a measuring tool. We are going to create a corner here. So what I am doing is just drawing just like that. And I'm going to do this on both sides. You are making a 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch square. In each corner. Okay, now verify that our marks, where our marks are going to catch all our layers. Okay? Because if we shorted something or it shrunk in the ironing or heat press, if that's what you use, you will want to bring your mark in just a little bit. Now, we want to make sure this remains super straight. We also want to verify that our 1 1/4 mark here is just below our top stitch line on both sides. Okay, just like that. Now what we're going to do is stitch on those lines through everything just as we have it. Okay, so we will be stitching through the top exterior, what we top stitched, the bottom part of the pocket. We will be catching, when we get to the side line, we will be catching the side of the zipper, which will close up the zipper, as well as that pocket lining. Okay, and it's really, really important to make sure you're not pulling it kind of rounded this way, because that zipper gives you a hump. Okay, so it's really important that you are feeling to make sure where that line is going to stitch, and make sure that your stitch is straight. Remember to turn your corner with your needle down. Okay, so you can see my stitch line is actually right on my top stitch line, which is a great place for it. My zipper has been stitched closed, and I'm going to repeat for the other side. Then remember, pivot with your needle down. Just like that. And that one's a little bit lower, but that's okay. Now you can see how our EB Fuse or Decaville Light piece is, it basically is right at our seam line. It's a little hard to see with the white on white, but that is going to help us make this fold. Instead of going all the way down, this edge under the F101 is going to help give us that nice crease, just like that. And that way we don't have to top stitch this edge. It will look actually more hidden. Okay. Now, if you have a domestic machine, I recommend that you trim part of your corner away. Just like that. Nothing fancy. Just kind of get it out of the way, especially for domestic machine users. Just like that. Now, I want this to fold up. So I am going to use some clips to hold it where I want. Oops. Like that. Zipper pull kind of in the middle. And this is just blue painter tape. You can definitely use the green frog tape too, or anything that's a low tack. And the reason why I want 1 inch, and I want to apply it right along that folded edge. Just like that. Make sure it is on the folded edge. Now, the reason for this painter tape is we need a straight edge to do some stitching by. So, I've got my 1 inch, gotta be 1 inch. If you are comfortable using a marking pen on whatever your exterior is, one of my bags I used wide wale corduroy. I did not want to mark that, period. So the tape just works easy. It's a nice mark. Now what you want to do is feel where your seam is. Because what we're going to do now, we're going to be moving that zipper around a little bit. We are going to top stitch from the end, the raw side, all the way across using this top edge of our painter tape as our guideline. Okay, so that's why it's super important to have your tape straight across, because it's going to be your stitch line guide. So now you're going to find where your little mark is, okay, and where your seam is. My seam actually comes all the way up here, okay? And that 1-inch tape should actually be right about where the seam is that you sewed that zipper. Okay, it's a lot of explanation, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Okay, so we are going to top stitch. We want to get through all layers. So we want the front and we want this top seam here. Okay, so that we create our hidden pocket. So I'm going to feel where I've got my seam, and if it shifts a little bit in placement, then I want to know it so I can make sure I get my everything gets caught in that top stitch. Okay, you can kind of see my top stitching line, and I literally use this as my top stitching guide. You can see from this back side that I have caught all my layers, even though they're not exactly straight on the back. But here we have it. Okay, so if you pull up the flap a little bit, you've got your hidden pocket. Okay. The pocket zipper was stitched with these lines closed. And our top here is stitched to be held in place by that top stitch line. Okay. There we have it. There is our hidden pocket. And this is considered the back. I just labeled it as that. You can certainly make it your front if you so wish. If you desire or feel it would help you out, you can certainly base stitch this bottom edge just to keep your lining in place. But before you do that, let's stitch the side of our pocket. Now, what I found is that if you start from the open end and go up to the bulk seam, you can get tighter into that spot. So you'll need to figure out, okay, so I want 1.5 inches from the ends so that I catch the side. And basically for the pocket, you just want to make sure you catch it by at least a 1/4 inch. But make sure that you kind of peel your bottom exterior up, because we don't want to distort how our pocket fits. As high as you can. I don't think any of us actually fill our pockets up to overflowing, that the little gap here is going to make any difference. And repeat for the second side. All right, just like that. Make these long tails. Okay, and like I said, if it would make you feel better, you can definitely base stitch at an 1/8 inch this bottom seam, but it's really not going to go anywhere. So I'm not going to worry about it, but if you feel you need to, by all means. This is our bottom and our 2 side gussets. On your bottom, our seam allowance is 1/4 inch. And so I am going to mark those seam allowances just like that. Okay, I have the seam allowances all marked. Side gusset. Line it up just like that. And the second set just like that. And now we are going to stitch this 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to stitch from that point to that point. We do not want to stitch all the way to the end. We're going to stitch from the point to the point. That's why we drew the lines. Okay, so 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting and stopping 1/4 inch from that raw edge. Quarter inch from each end, just like that. Okay. Repeat for this side. Next, I have applied a line of DST across the short top end and along the both, just because I'm working with vinyl, just to help split the seam, just like that. We are going to top stitch along both sides of these seams for the bottom and the side gusset. Don't top stitch this end. I repeat, do not. This is not where we're going to top stitch. Okay? This is simply to hold it folded over. And it's not a good day for, wow, DST. Should be for the top edge of your Decoville light or EB fuse. The reason why I suggest the EB fuse, I don't get any kickback from Emmeline bags or anything. I just have found I like it. It adheres quite nicely. And it doesn't wrinkle. You will notice that once we get started getting all the pieces pulled together, we're going to be turning and unturning and turning and unturning. And so we want to not necessarily use the Decoville light because it might wrinkle on you. That's the only reason for you can for the EB Fuse suggestion. If you're going to do a canvas, the corduroy, the wide wale corduroy that I use, the EB Fuse, although I did use the Decoville light in the sides, and I'll show you that bag towards the end. But we're going to top stitch both sides of those seams. Just like that. And those not sewing all the way to the end, we have the split. Okay? And that's exactly how we want it. Repeat for the other end. There we have both seams with the side gussets and the bottom top stitched. Both sides have the splits. Okay. We have folded over our top edge of our side gusset and just use the DST to hold in place. There's no need to top stitch. This is our back with the hidden pocket. Okay, so go ahead and lay that right side up. And we want to lay this and line up that bottom edge, just like that. Okay, bottom edge, just like that. And because we did a 1/4 inch seam, each side's a 1/4 inch seam, and our seam allowance is going to be a 1/4 inch seam. If you line up the edge of that folded with where we want it, it'll be lined up for your, actually will be lined up spaced correctly. Okay, so that's lined up how we want it. Okay, now I have the, all the pocket linings need to be caught in this seam. Okay, so make sure that those are down nice to where you want them. And now we are going to stitch from that seam line to this seam line. Do not stitch onto the side gusset, okay? We want seam line to seam line, 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can simply use your line that you drew or your 1/4 inch measure, however you wish to do it, but stitch from seam line to seam line, not edge to edge. Well, that was pretty good timing. Looks like I just ran out of bobbin thread when I pulled that. Okay, so as you can see, we've got our bottom stitched. And from the front here, you can see we did not stitch onto our side gusset. Okay, on either side. We stop right at that seam allowance. And from the back, you can see that we've caught the bottom edges of our pocket lining, and that closed up the bottom of our pocket. Okay. Going to want to do the exact same thing with our exterior front, which is without any extra. You can certainly add a tag if you wish. Totally your preference, but we're going to do the same thing. Line that up across the bottom. And here we have our exterior with just the bottom band stitched. Okay, just like that. We've caught all the lining pieces to our hidden pocket lining. And so just like that. Pretty straightforward. We're going to set this to the side for just a moment. All right, we have 15 inches of zipper tape with 2 pulls installed to meet in the middle. And we have 2 lining gussets with the gusset right side up and the zipper tape right side up. You'll see that the short end is exactly the same size as your zipper tape. Okay, so that's how we're going to match that up. Same thing with the other end. Zipper right side up, side gusset right side up. Okay, just like that. Now we're going to stitch 1/2 inch and then reinforce it at a 1/4 inch. So we'll have 2 seam lines on our zipper across the bottom, 1 at a 1/4 and 1 at a 1/2. All right, I will be right back once I get that all stitched on and can show you what I meant. Okay, here we have our zipper tape stitched on with 2 stitch lines, 1 at roughly a 1/4 and 1 at a 1/2. The 1/2 is your actual seam allowance, so this must be at a 1/2. That one just between the 1/2 and the edge. Okay, both of them have been done like that. Okay, I'm going to give this a good finger press. And now we are going to get this all going in the right direction. We want to match up the folded edge of our exterior side gusset to where that seam allowance folds. Okay, so just like that. And make sure your lining gusset and your exterior gusset are lined up. And we're going to sew down just about 2.5 inches. So 2.5 inches. So I'm going to stop right about there. Okay. Both sides. It's about the 2.5 mark. Okay. So now we're going to sew from this folded edge to our 2.5 inch mark at an 1/8 inch through both the exterior lining or exterior gusset and the lining gusset. And the lining gusset is right side out, just like this. Okay? Do not stitch across this folded edge through that zipper. I repeat, do not top stitch it. Okay? Don't do it. I found that this worked better to go from the thin point up to the fold. Okay? 2.5 inches. So we basically have stitched just like that. Okay? Now I'm going to repeat for this other side of the side gusset I was working on. And then I'm going to do the same for the second exterior side gusset and second lining gusset, making sure that I do not twist my zipper. Okay? You see that? It is important to make sure that the way you sew your zipper and your lining side gusset together, so that when you match up wrong sides together of your side gussets, lining and exterior, your zipper front, the coil side of your zipper is to the exterior. Okay, you see what I mean? Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch the other 3 sides and show you that so we can move on to the next step. Okay, here's what we have. I have stitched linings, side gussets, and exterior together. Okay, I did not stitch the top through the zipper. I do not want that top stitched. Okay, I've done that on both ends. The 2.5 is not a magic number. You just don't want to go too far down. Okay, so 2.5, 2, 3, somewhere in that distance. I have also gone ahead and applied a row of DST to both sides of my zipper tape. And now we're going to start pulling this together. I am going to clip this out of the way on both sides. Okay, remembering which side we're working on. All right, so that's out of the way. Now, this is why we did not stitch all the way to the raw edge. Okay. We want to simply fold this bottom corner up. Okay, you basically just split it. And we are going to, it's a little awkward to show you. We are going to stitch from that corner point. Okay, so where we ended our other stitch, we're going to stitch from that point, that's why we split it, up to where we stitched, stopped stitching our lining gusset and our exterior gusset together. Okay, so we're just going to stitch this far. I do the back hidden pocket section first, just because it's a little bit more bulky, and that the fold there just is a little more bulk, a little more thickness. So I do this one first because the first half is a little bit easier than the second half. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Still working. On the exterior back with the hidden pocket. Okay, just like that. Let's see if I can show you. Okay, we just fold it up. Keep in mind, we have a specific amount of zipper here that we're going to be easing around this curve. If you distort this corner, you're going to come crying to me and say the zipper is too long. It's not. If you turn, just literally open that seam. Do not tug, do not pull. You will have everything the right size. Okay? Super, super important. I cannot stress that enough. Okay? So I'm going to kind of fold this like that. Try and slide that under my foot. And we're going to stitch this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, you can see my stitch line. And you can see my corner. This is only just barely split. Okay. And I have stitched almost to that point. Okay. I'm going to repeat for the second side, and then we're going to start fitting and easing the zipper around the top. Here you can see what we have. Okay. It's all the further we've stitched up. Okay. And our lining is free. Okay. I've gone ahead and I just trimmed away a little bit of the bulk at the corners. As well. It's one of the reasons for the rounded bottom corner on the exterior is also to eliminate the bulk if you are not comfortable trimming the corner. That just is quick, easy, no-brainer, eliminate some of the bulk. Okay, so this is what we've got. Now, we've got DST, and we're going to carefully work this zipper around this curve. Now, trust me, it does fit. Okay, it does fit. I am going to work on that off camera because it's going to take a little bit to get it in place. Don't snip your curves of your zipper tape. I know there's a number of patterns out there that make that suggestion. I don't recommend it. It's only a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Believe it or not, you can ease your zipper tape around the curve. You just got to have a little bit of patience and go slow when you get it all in place. Okay? And just quick side note, I keep my zipper pull from my hidden pocket in the middle just so that I don't risk hitting it when I'm stitching. It's out of the way. I don't have to think about it again. Okay, so I'm just going to ease this around from where we stitch the sides all the way around. It will fit. And I mean ease, meaning you're just matching the edge. Just carefully get it in place. It will fit, especially if you did not distort your corners. Okay? It will fit. All right. And here we have eased in our zipper around the curve. Okay, couple of side notes. You kind of want to verify that this to this is the same as this to this. Okay? So we don't want one of our side gussets to come flying all the way up around the curve and the other one to be way down by the fold of our hidden pocket. Okay, so kind of verify. You can eyeball it to see that, yep, that looks pretty good. It's pretty even. This side might be a tad bit higher, but visually it does not look off. Sometimes we get a little too persnickety. But keep in mind where we sewed our 2.5 inch mark. Where's your 2.5 inch mark? Should be right about that fold. Okay, so that'll tell you if your gussets are coming up the sides evenly. Okay, and we literally, you want to drop this in place literally as if this were straight. I don't know how else to describe it. You literally just lay it down. You don't stretch it. You don't curl it. You just lay it down. Okay? It will then all fit. And you can see when you look at it, it looks like we might get some puckers. Believe it or not, we won't. If you take your time and are manipulating your zipper as you stitch, it will stitch correctly. Trust me. Trust the process. Okay? So now what we're going to do is starting from where we stitched the lining gusset and the exterior gusset at the 1/8, we're going to start right about that point. Okay? And we're going to stitch all the way around to that point on this side at 1/8 inch. Okay? We want to get our zipper attached to our exterior first before we start fitting the lining piece on. All right? So we're going to stitch. You can go a little bit further down, especially if you have a gap where you didn't quite get up to that fold. So you can go ahead and stitch down to make sure you close up that gap. So 1/8 stitch line from where our exterior and interior gussets are stitched together all the way around 1/8 inch. We're attaching the zipper permanently to our exterior top edge. Okay, now when I do this, I don't know if you can see it very well, but I'm literally pushing my zipper so it's as flat as it can be where I am stitching. We flip this to the outside like that. You can see there are no puckers, and our zipper and gusset fit perfectly. Okay? I've done the math. I've done the figuring. Trust my process. Okay? That's where we're at. We've got our zipper sewn on at an 1/8 inch. Okay? I want to make sure everything is in place and we do not have any puckers. Okay? We sewed a little bit down past where we started, but right about that point. Okay, so we don't have any gaps here or here. Okay. And our zipper is in place at this point. Now, what we want to do is put a second line of DST got that DST, make sure it's squished down good. At this point, it doesn't make a difference if your zipper is open or closed. I just really recommend do not try sewing around zipper pulls. Get your zipper pulls pulled away from where you're stitching. Don't risk it. Don't risk your foot going wonky in that spot and then you're wondering why you got a spot in your zipper that you got to take out. All right, so we've got the DST in place. Now I have a pocket zipper here. I do not like to put pocket zipper to pocket zipper on my lining. So this is my slip pocket. Now we are going to use that DST and we're going to fit that in place, sandwiching the zipper in between. Okay, you might need to fiddle with it a little bit to get it. And what I found actually to be the best way is start with the top. You can see where the curves are. So start with the top and get it lined up. Okay. It's super important to make sure. See my SF1 101 is kind of bubbling here. So I'm gonna get a little persnickety on me. And just work this around, sticking it to the DST to that point. You'll need clips. No question about that. To hold everything in place, sandwiching your zipper. I am going to move my zipper pulls all the way to this end. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start here in the middle. I'm going to start here in the middle and I'm going to stitch around to just past where we stopped before. Okay, just past where we stopped before. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to start with this first half of our zipper. Now you can feel under here where all your zippers at, okay? So just really get your fingers to hold all your zipper coils flat. Again, you are not stretching, curling, pulling anything around this corner. You are simply letting it all ease into place. And just fiddle with it until you feel that your zipper is in place, no puckers. Okay, so that corner looks great. It's exactly what we want it to look like. This is one of the reasons why I don't suggest the Decoville, is because we just turned that and turned it again and turned it again. So now move your zipper pulls down to the end you stitched. And continue easing your lining in place around your curve over top of your zipper. I'm going to get this finished and then I will show you what it all looks like. Just remember, you can feel what your zipper is doing. Just take it slow. Even if your DST is not cooperating, you can tell what it's doing. Just go slow. You don't want to have to take this out. We're not working with big seams. Okay, so just like that. And I do continue to work from the lining side just because you can feel more than if you tried to do this from the vinyl side. Okay. Now, if you choose to work from with a canvas exterior or corduroy exterior, you can certainly stitch from the other side, but I'm actually going to go ahead and just stitch on this side. And I'm going to get that stitched and I'll be back. Here is where we are at. We have the lining all stitched around the zipper, around the curves. We have no puckers. We have our sides are open. Okay, quick note, you will notice that the main linings are longer than the side gussets, and that is on purpose so that we've got that extra little bit to box our corners off. Okay, so I have verified my zipper is not puckered. Everything pretty much lays the way I want it to. Now we need to turn it back to inside out. All right, just like that. Because we now need to stitch the sides of our lining. Okay, so we're going to match up these bottom. Okay, so here's our seam for the top curve. Goes down to there. Okay, this is the lining gusset because remember our exterior gusset's already sewn. So this is our lining gusset and the lining. And we're going to sew 1/4 inch seam allowance, but we're going to sew down to 1/4 inch from the end. Okay, and it's going to work best if I start at this point and stitch to this point. We may not get all the way in just because we're going to be folding a lot back to try and get there. So we may not quite get it. 1/4 inch or so, you'll never notice. Anything more than that, you might want to go in with some hand sewing and close up that little gap. But 1/4 inch or so, you won't notice. So we're going to sew 1/4 inch from this mark up to here on both sides. And that is just the lining pieces. Okay. Okay, as you can see, I actually was able to get right up to that point. Okay, so you can see that now we have our lining side sewn. I'm going to repeat for this side. Okay, now I don't know if you can see this or not, but I did not get about a 1/4 inch on that side, even though this side came together quite nicely. This side did not. Okay, so we've got our linings. Now what you need to do is just the main lining part. Go ahead and just snip right at the end of your stitch. That will allow this main lining to turn a little bit nicer for boxing out your corners. It's going to be a really tight fit in there, so any extra little boost, okay? I didn't snip the side gusset, just the main lining at that stitch point up to where you stitched, okay? Now, we can turn this back. Technically, this is right side out. A little disappointed in my DST this go around. It's not staying very well. All right, so now we can see our lining is, so it's attached to the exterior to this point, okay? You can see that it's attached to the lining to that point. From that point down, it's loose, okay? Does that make sense? And you see, was this the one? Yeah, this is the one with the little gap. And you really cannot see that it's there. 1/4 inch, you cannot pull anything out. So seriously, it's not something you need to worry about. All right, that was the easy half. Okay. You're going to want to really pull your lining and stuff around. Don't snip your corner because your curves and stuff, because you will be snipping into your zipper tape. And I think that will weaken it. So just don't do it. It's really not necessary. Now, we're going to repeat what we did the first time. So we're going to start by simply turning our side gusset up. Just like that. And we're going to do this on both side gussets, just like this. Now remember, it's super important. Don't distort this corner. Simply split it. All right, here we have it all clipped. Okay, we are going to sew from this corner point to about that point, 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like we did on this side. We don't have to worry about catching the pocket or anything. Just simply stitch 1/4 inch from that point to roughly that point. Both sides. Side seam stitched. Okay, you can kind of see from this side better. We've stitched from one side to the other, and the reason why it's a little uneven is just because of how far I stitched down on my gussets with the side linings. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just snip away a little bit of this corner bulk. Now, this is going to be a little more awkward. You have to remember to always keep your zipper open so that you can move your zipper pulls around. we're going to now use our unsticky DST. All right, there's our first layer. And see, it's really not that much fussy work in getting your zipper in place. You're just going right along the edge, just like that. And now we're going to stitch the 1/8 inch seam allowance first. Okay, and remember, you want to keep moving your zipper pulls. So since I'm going to come from this direction, I'm going to put my zipper pulls down here. And we're going to stitch from this point here, 1/8 inch, all the way around. Okay, remember to move your zipper pulls with your needle down. Okay, and so now my zipper pulls are up here, and I can continue stitching around this other curve without worrying I'm going to hit those zipper pulls and break something. Okay, there's your first zipper around. And we don't have any puckers. It went in nice. Note, sometimes you'll find that your side gussets might seem a little bit wider than your zipper. Your zipper width is the important width. So as long as there is going to be 3/4 inch opening, you will be fine. Okay? Now, we need a second row of DST. This is a little bit of a challenge because you gotta keep your zipper open, but we are going to cover this all up. So this gets a little bit difficult. I'm gonna try and show as much of this in the video as I can. Probably sped up a bit, but you should be able to get the idea. Okay, so I'm just putting the second row of DST. Like I said, it's not necessarily sticking real well. Yes, this is kind of a lot of DST, but for this, it's just an extra pair of hands that is impossible to really hold. Otherwise, since we're not top stitching, you don't have to worry about stitching in through all that DST. All right. We need our second lining. And I like to make sure that my lining is well adhered to the SF. And the SF is trimmed away nicely around these curves. Sometimes I'm a little sloppy when I initially put it on. Just go ahead and trim it down a little bit. All right, you can kind of see where my center mark is when I marked my centers. I don't get real fussy with where my center is. It's all going to come together. And since you can't pull the lining out very far, it's not going... I guess the best way to say it is this bag is somewhat forgiving if you missed it a little bit. Now, flattening out that zipper just a little bit. Technically, those center marks are pretty close. Now, there are a number of different ways you can do this to make it easier on yourself. You can get this straight line across the top, not worrying about the centers or anything just yet, or the curves. Since my DST is not holding well, I am going to go ahead and stitch across this straighter top edge. So between the curves. And remember, since we are on the second time around the curves, we are using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, all I've done is just stitched across this top. Okay, I've got no puckers, looks good. I'm going to work on this side first. All right, just like that. And then on this side, we're going to pull this so that it also lines up. And I'm not kidding. All right. I've got a few puckers in the lining. I don't think I'm going to worry about it because my zipper and my exterior look great. Okay. So we've got the linings and exterior are all sandwiched together here. We're going to flip this back. Just like that. That's why this side's a lot more awkward than the other. We're going to move that one's where we want it. We're going to move our zipper pull to at least the middle. It's a little hard to zip and unzip zippers from the back side. Okay, and now we're going to wrestle this side in place. Like that. Okay, so we're going to finish this at 1/4 inch, and we're going to keep manipulating our zipper so it's as flat as we can get it when we're sewing around. This is, you stitch on the slow side so that you can really be moving and feeling what your zipper is doing. It's really, 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 did I say really? Important. Do not take a more generous seam at the top section of these side gussets where the zipper and the side gussets meet. The next step will kind of explain why. And there we have our second line of stitching. Okay, so your zipper is stitched in twice because we stitched it in at the 1/8 and then at the 1/4. Okay, looks like this curved side did a little bit better and didn't get any wrinkles. So let's go ahead and flip our bag. All right, so it's right side out with the lining right side out. Okay, just like that. Looking at our top edge, looks good. Really squish it, really mush it, really shape that top edge of your bag. Our strap connector, our forceps, and our D-rings. All right, this is our strap connector. I have prepared it with 2 lines of DST and a row, a strip of, actually this is the EB fuse right down the middle, okay? I don't care what you use, you really need to stabilize your strap connectors and your straps. Putting a line of EB fuse or even the Decoville light, it doesn't add enough bulk for the security, stability, and longevity you give your strap by properly stabilizing it. So always, always. Now, one thing you might notice is I do actually have a gap down the middle of my strap. Even though, yes, I cut it the 3/4 inch or the 1.5 inches, when I fold it around a piece of stabilizer that is 3/4 inch, the thickness of your vinyl is going to kind of dictate how close or not close that comes together. So now we need to tap stitch along both sides of your strap connector. You don't have to. By all means, you can leave it unstitched. I just happen to like it stitched. Top stitched both sides. And since there is not a lot of top stitching on the bag, exterior of the bag, by all means, if you do not want it top stitched, you do not need to top stitch. I did measurements I called for the D-ring strap connectors is double the amount. So once you have it top stitched or not, before we stitch up the lining sides, flip our bag back inside out, we are going to push our forceps up. You want to make sure you get it. This comes out the hole. Okay? So, as you can see, right there. All right. The idea behind the forceps is that it will lock in place. So you're not trying to hold it closed and tug and pull. So now I'm just going to work that strap connector. This is why the seam allowances that need to be taken are so terribly important. What I'm looking for is actually a straight blade screwdriver. And I'm going to kind of help. This is why the locking the forceps is such a handy little tool. I'm going to get the corners down into place. Just that. Now we're going to pull. Okay, when using the screwdriver, be sure that you're not damaging your vinyl in any way. And go ahead and pull those down basically right to the edge, just like that. Okay? And now unlock your forceps. Okay, that was the first one. I'm going to get the second one in, and I will be right back. All right, now you can see we have both D-ring strap connectors pulled into that gap. Okay, so now we're going to turn this back to being inside out. Okay. Right, just like that. And we are going to now match up like we did the last time. The side seams and the side gussets, starting 1/4 inch from the bottom. And stitching 1/4 inch side seam. Now you have even more bulk here. So just do your best, get as high as you can. And like I said the first time, if you cannot get it as high as you want it, just take a couple of little stitches by hand. But in all reality, because of the way this is constructed, you'll never really notice that you missed a section. That, and that side is stitched. Okay, I'm going to snip the bottom of the main lining again. Okay, and repeat stitching the other side, and I will be back and we'll be ready to turn everything right side out and wrap up the bottom lining. Okay. Okay, here we have bottom side seams of our lining stitched. Okay, both sides, and I have snipped both bottom edges. Okay, our bottom to our exterior is stitched separately like that. Okay, so I have two, hard to see here. Okay, there's two separate bags here. Got the exterior in my right hand, the lining here in my left hand. Okay, so now we want to turn it so that the lining is right side out. Okay, just like that. Lining is now right side out. Okay, our side seams go down to where we snipped our seams. Okay, now we're going to turn the bag right side out so the exterior is out. This is one of the reasons why the Decoville light was not suggested. You can see how I am just really mushing this around. And we're not done mushing it, okay? So I'm going to push those ends out nicely. Okay, I'm going to repeat for this side. Okay, there we go. Now, depending on the material you chose to use, we really just fold your seams so that they're doing what they want. You can see where the strap connector is here. You've got enough bulk that this is holding everything nicely in place. It's also going to help that this print to this vinyl looks like acid wash denim, looks wrinkled. So you'll never notice it's all wrinkled. But believe it or not, this EB fuse, if you're looking for something that doesn't wrinkle, I strongly suggest give it a try. You might be surprised and find a new stabilizer that you like better than that super pricey Decoville light. And it adheres nicely so you can easily double it up. All right. I've got the bag turned right side out. Got my zippers, just like that. Okay. Boy, be nice if we could stop here, but we're not quite done yet. So, we've got our hidden zipper nicely tucked in there. Kind of a cool little feature. You could always, especially if you're a little worried about the bulk, you could always simply leave off the zipper and just do two of the plain sides. Again, that is the beauty of sewing, creating your own items. Do it your way. Now, we have this lining that we need to stitch up closed. All right, so we left the bottom of our interior, our lining zipper pocket, and we are going to pull up the bottom. Okay. Now, the reason why we're not done squishing this around, we kind of got to turn this like a paper sack. Reason being is because our lining is stitched to our exterior. It's only gonna come so far. Okay, so I'm gonna pull and match up my bottom seam. Okay, that's the big one in here. Remember, the side seam gusset, the side gusset is shorter than our main lining. Okay, so we're going to stitch. We're going to match up this edge and then we're going to stitch it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And there you can see we have our lining bottom all stitched 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, because we snipped our corner, we're going, this is a little bit awkward, and if your fabric gave in any slight amount, you may find that your gusset's a little bit bigger, so just kind of ease it. So you're seeing my gusset is a little bit bigger here. So I'm just going to kind of ease it. You could put the excess to both corners. It's probably what I think will look best. Just like that. And I'm going to stitch this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. As you can see, I do have a little bit of a pucker on that. But you won't notice it's down in the bag. And remember, this isn't a lining you can just, pull out, take a look at. It's in there on purpose. It's way in there. So I'm not going to worry about that. So that's the first one. Some of this could simply be that the lining up around the curves actually stretched a little bit. And so, any number of things, it's not going to make or break the bag. That's also why we snip that corner, just making that bottom edge turn a little bit nicer, a little bit easier. Ah. All right. So now once we've pushed the lining down into our bag, the last thing we need to stitch is the bottom of our pocket closed. So I'm just going to go to the iron the raw edges to inside like that, give it a good press, and then stitch across the bottom. And I will be back with the actual finished bag. And here we have our stitch pocket. Little yellow on that side. Push that down. Push the corners out nicely in there. Okay, now keep in mind the lining may seem a little saggy. That is basically because the lining and the exterior are the same size. So just flipping it inside out, so that the lining is on the inside, especially when the lining felt pretty snug when it was all on the outside. That's the only reason. And you can't take a smaller bit to the lining with the construction in this manner. Okay. I've got top zippers. Now one last step. We are all done with the sewing. The one last step to do is to very carefully, but obviously firmly, because the lining or the vinyl on vinyl does not slide well. But I liked my strap connectors approximately 3/4 inch long. You definitely don't have to pull them out that far. That's about 3/4 inch, maybe a little shy, close to 5/8. That one's definitely going to be 3/4. Yep, just like that, 3/4. So I've just from the top folded edge of the side gusset to the fold of the strap connector is what I'm measuring. Okay, they are the same. Now, keep in mind, if you are not careful with pulling these strap connectors out, you've got a lot to tear out. Okay, so I just strongly suggest be careful. All right, now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to feel where my 1/2 inch mark is. Okay, because what I want to do is right about that 1/2 inch mark. I need a mark. Okay, I need a pencil mark. Now, a couple of my testers only put 1 rivet. That is totally up to you. I kind of liked the 2 rivet because it's not stitched in. I just kind of preferred the double rivet. So, okay. And you've got more than enough strap connector. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see this, but I've got one. It's a 1/2 inch down, which is, you can feel where your zipper ends. Okay, so you're not putting your rivet through your zipper. Okay, don't put your zipper or your rivet through the end of the zipper. So we're just below the fold, below the end of the zipper. Okay, so roughly a 1/2 inch down, and then roughly another 1/2 inch down. My strap connector comes all the way down here. Okay, so that is a good amount of support to hold my rivets. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this side. That first one is dictated almost more by where everything ends. Yes, you want it to be the same, but as long as your sewing was accurate, you should be all good. Okay, so I've got marked for 2 rivets. And now I am going to go punch a hole through everything, right through the lining. Okay. And I will be back and show you the 100% completed bag. Huh? Okay, you can see we have our double rivets on the side. And just to make this quick and simple, I just went with the metal chain shoulder straps. It's just kind of a nice little feature. I believe I got one of these from My Punk Embroidery, and the other ones came from Emmeline Bags, I think. But as you can see, this one is all vinyl, as is this one. This one is Mora, faux leather. And the only stabilizer I used in this one, because I was still perfecting, is the side gussets in the bottom. So this one is quite slouchy. But it holds up nicely if you are struggling with all the turning. At least put the SF 101 on your vinyl you need something just to make sure that all your curves do not get all funky. Okay, this one I showed at the beginning. This is corduroy and Buddha, a faux suede. And the extra stabilizer behind the wide well corduroy just gives it a nice structure. And then this was another all vinyl, made just like the denim look one. It was just two-tone. Some of my testers did the bottom chunk of the packet and the full front piece, one color, and top part of the packet, then match the sides. Your individuality is only limited by your imagination. Have fun with it. If you are at all confused by the steps this pattern took, I strongly recommend, go ahead, get some practice fabric. Maybe you picked up some vinyl that's not as high quality as you like to usually work with. Make a practice bag. It's worth the time and headache and the tears and the frustration. Make a practice. Figure out, okay, this is what I meant, this is what was meant by this is what was meant by that. Get a hang of it. Practice doing around the top curve of the pocket. And then just simply enjoy the process. Okay? So thank you for joining me, and be on the lookout for even more videos for my patterns.